But now, Psalm 18 and verse 4. That's why I say I don't need to know what Sheol and Hades. All I got to do is be able to read it and read it in context to know what condition of hell he's talking about. Psalm 18 and 4. Go ahead.
The sorrow of death compassed me, and the floods of ungodly men made me afraid.
Now notice now this is really Jesus talking through the mouth of David, but that's another lesson. But he said, the sorrows of death compassed me. So now this guy is concerned about death. He getting ready to die. That's what's on his mind. He know he got to die. So he said, the sorrows of death compassed me, and what?
And the floods of ungodly men made me afraid.
And the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. They all was against Jesus. All of them. Go ahead.
The sorrow of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me.
See, then he said it again. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. What do you mean the sorrows of hell? Again, he's still talking about death.
That's right.
He said the sorrows of death compassed me. The floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. See, that's why Peter and them thought Jesus was going to do everything at that one time. No, death prevented him. He couldn't do everything then. He got to come back and take over the world at his second coming. Why? Because he had to die his first coming. That's why I say the snares of death prevented me. Hey, he had to stop right there. Couldn't complete the mission. But he knew that. That's why I say it's written here. But notice again, it said in verse 5, the sorrows of hell compassed me about. See, this is in reference to a low condition as well, but this is in reference to him dying and being in the grave. And we're going to see that. Go to Psalm 16. Back up a couple of chapters. See, he knew that he had to die and go to hell. A lot of people say, well, see, Jesus went to hell. They think the devil is, again, they think he under the ground in hell. And then they say, well, Jesus died and he went to hell where the devil is and preached to him. They mess up a couple of scriptures. They just mess the scripture up all over the place. Now, Jesus didn't go to hell fire. Again, Satan is not in hell fire right now. Satan is on the earth. That's the condition of hell Satan is in. When Jesus died, he did not go to hell fire and preach to the spirits in prison that way. That scripture that in Peter is talking about when he was in the old days, when he was a spirit being, he preached to Satan them back there in Noah's time. It tells you what time it was when it went on, when the flood was coming. That's when he preached to the spirits in prison. It wasn't when he died and people just make stuff up. But the hell that Jesus went to is simply the grave. He was dead and buried for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't go nowhere, talk to nobody. He was dead. And he knew that. 16 and 8. Psalm 16 and 8. Go ahead.
I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be moved.
Now, this is Jesus speaking through the mouth of King David. But it's about Jesus, and we're going to find that out. Go ahead.
Therefore, my heart is glad, and my glory rejoices. My flesh shall rest in hope.
See, he's talking about death again. He's talking about end up dying, and he's going to mention hell again. That's why he said his concentration is only on the Lord. He focused on the Lord. Therefore, whatever he's going through, he ain't going to be moved. He said, my heart is glad, in verse 9, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. See, he's talking about when he went to hell. That's when his flesh going to rest in hope. He's saying it before it happened. Verse 10.
For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell.
Wait a minute. Thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. That means his soul went to hell, didn't it? And it need not be left, right? But it had to go. People say, well, the soul don't die, it don't go to hell. Look like a soul just went to hell here, right? See, people don't understand. Soul refer to different things too. It refers to a flesh and blood body, which we are. Then overall, you got a spirit body, a spiritual soul. You got different types of bodies. So, but anyway, it told you point blank that thou would not leave my soul where?
In hell.
In hell. That means his soul had to go to hell, not to be left in hell, right? But that's why verse 9 said, my flesh also shall rest in hope. See, this soul is referring to just his flesh, just his body.
That's right.
It's simple, isn't it? My flesh also shall rest in hope. Why? For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. See, this soul is referring to the flesh and blood body. Because we all are souls. We are living souls. People say, oh, no, you got a soul in you. Yeah, the inside of your soul, the inside of your body. That's the only soul inside of you that they don't understand. Now, God got another body that he going to bring and give you, change this one into, if you do what you need to do, you'll be in the kingdom with him with a new body. If you don't, you'll have that body, but you're going to be in the lake of fire burning forever. Because the lake of fire is not meant for the flesh and blood. Yeah, flesh and blood will burn up in the lake of fire. It couldn't make it eternally. But see, God going to put a change on it. Ain't that something? God going to give you a body just like the devil got, an immortal body so he can burn you forever. That's a terrible God. You don't want to mess with him. He gonna do that. He gonna change your body so it can withstand. Because, yeah, if you try to look at it with the natural mind and say, no, flesh and blood, that it would just burn up. Just like people gave me a knowledge. See, just like if I burn this paper, you know, God wouldn't burn you forever. If I burn this paper, eventually it's going to burn and fire going to go out. Yeah, this ain't paper, though. This is an immortal being that's going to burn forever. The Lord gave you an example of that. Even Moses saw the burning bush. What he saw? The bush was burning, but what? But it wasn't going nowhere, was it? See, we're talking some immortal stuff here. Same way with the lake of fire. It's some immortal stuff. And God going to make sure you can deal with it so he can hurt you forever. See, that's something to fear. But now, pick it up at verse 10 again.
For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thy Holy One to see corruption.
See, this is talking about the Holy One, Jesus. He said, for thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. Now, again, we talking about hell, but it's not hell fire. Jesus didn't go to hell fire. We talking about the grave. That's what hell refers to, a bad condition in many instances too. The grave. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. That means his body didn't even rot. He was only there for 3 days and 3 nights. It didn't even get a chance to decompose. So it didn't see corruption like all other flesh do when you die and go to the grave. Why? Verse 11.
Thou wilt show me thy path of life.
That's right. He showed him the path of life after 3 days and 3 nights. Go ahead.
In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore.
And that's where he at. Keep your finger in Psalm. We're going to come right back. Put a marker or something in Psalm. We're going to come back to Psalm. But now let's go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, all the way to the New Testament. See, that's why we got so many scriptures, because we know the Bible interprets itself. It explains itself. This is going to explain. See, the New Testament didn't do nothing but teach out the Old Testament anyway. They weren't trying to teach nothing new. You got a lot of people come up with opinions trying to teach something new. Look, just teach what's in the Bible. That's all the New Testament. That's all the apostles did. That's all Jesus did. Even when Jesus fought the devil, he didn't do nothing but quote scripture with the devil. Sometimes that's, you know, people want to get fancy and use their own way. Look, the scripture's good enough. Acts 2 and 22. It's going to tell us about Psalm 16. Go ahead.
Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which God did by him in the midst of you, as ye yourself also know. Him, being delivered by the determining counsel and foreknowledge of God, ye have taken, and by wicked hands have crucified and slain.
See, now it was planned by God. That's what it's telling us here. Jesus being delivered and killed and crucified. We talking about his crucifixion because we got to make sure his soul wasn't left in hell, right? And we know that's his body. That's why he said his flesh shall rest in hope. But so it's talking about his crucifixion, but it was planned by God, by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge. So they didn't do nothing God didn't know about, in other words. Matter of fact, God had it planned, but yet and still he reminded us that the people who did it are wicked. See, God will let the wicked do their dirt. He'll let that fit into his plan. He said, I got some wicked people. I need to have me a sin offering. So I'm going to send my righteous son He going to be perfect and holy, and I'm going to have these wicked people kill him. And that'll do it. So you think they going to get away with it? That's why he said it. He said, ye have taken him by wicked hands, have crucified and slain. Verse 24.
Whom God had raised up, having loosed the pangs of death.
Oh, but he raised him up from the dead. We know that, right? Loose the pains of death. Why?
Because it was not possible that he should be hold of it.
He couldn't stay dead. Why? Go ahead.
For David speak concerning him.
Oh, David. David is the one who wrote Psalm, right? David speaking concerning him. The one that died and resurrected, Jesus. What David speak concerning him?
I foresaw the Lord always before my face. For he is on my right hand, that I shall not be moved.
This is verbatim from Psalm 16. Go ahead.
Therefore did my heart rejoice, and my tongue was glad. Moreover, also my flesh shall rest in hope.
That sound familiar, right? My flesh shall rest in hope. David, but the Bible just confirmed that David wasn't talking about David. David was talking about him, Jesus. About him dying and resurrected.
That's right.
Go ahead, verse 27.
Because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell.
Oh, because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. But what is this applying to? Hell fire somewhere? Jesus went to hell and talked to some people?
No.
This hell is simply talking about the grave when he died. Because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. Go ahead.
Neither wilt thou suffer thy Holy One to see corruption.
See, he quoted it all. He gonna finish quoting it. Go ahead.
Thou hast made known to me the ways of life. Thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance.
See, he quoted all of that, what we just read, Psalm 16, 8 through 11. He using that to do his preaching out of. But now he gonna break it down for us. Go ahead, 29.
Men and brothers, let me freely speak unto you the patriarch David.
See, the preacher said, now let me break this down for you. Let me tell you about the patriarch David. Go, what?
That he is both dead and buried.
Oh, in other words, he's not talking about himself, because the patriarch David is dead and buried and by now have well corrupted. So he wasn't referring to himself about his soul being left in hell. He gonna tell you, go ahead.
And his sepulchre is with us unto this day.
He said we can point to his grave to this day. But go ahead, verse 30. What was he talking about then?
Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God has sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he will raise up Christ to sit on his throne.
See, therefore being a prophet, and knowing that God hath sworn with an oath to him that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne. See, he knew that Jesus was going to have to die and be resurrected. He was prophesying of it just then. Go ahead, 31.
He's saying this before spake of the resurrection of Christ.
Oh, he was speaking of the resurrection of Christ. Simply when Christ died and was buried and resurrected, that's what he was speaking about in Psalm 16 when he said, my soul won't be left in hell. He's saying this before spake of the resurrection of Christ, that what?
That his soul was not left in hell.
Oh, that's making it clear, isn't it? That his soul was not left in hell. Not hell fire, right?
No.
Hell the grave. So Jesus knew he was going to die and go to hell, speaking of the grave. Go ahead.
Neither his flesh did see corruption.
And he knew his body wouldn't even rot. Go ahead, 32.
This Jesus hath God raised up, whereof we are all witnesses.
See, he knew he was going to get raised up. That's why it was written, thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. I got to go to hell, the grave. See, so hell is referring to what in this case? The grave. That's why you need to know this, because some people trip you up. You read Revelation 20, which we're going to go to in a minute. You read Revelation 20, they say, well, what is this hell? This is hell and this hell. You got two hells here. Yeah, because hell is different conditions. But now, let's go further. Back to Psalm 30. Back to Psalm 30 this time. Back to Psalm 30. Psalm 30. And he's talking about it some more here. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. Psalm 30, verse 1. Okay, go ahead.